But I remember success to me was when I have that vice president or that high level job and I'm in that corner office and I'm wearing the power suit and I'm in the meetings. That was going to be success. And I got there and I was like, the office politics are enough to like make you realize, no, thank you.
Welcome back to TrueIcon. What if the most powerful thing you could do for your team, your relationships, or yourself had less to do with strategy and everything to do with conversations? With over 2 years of HR expertise and the discipline of a 6th-degree Taekwondo Black Belt, Lisa Boucher helps organizations transform teams through hands-on leadership, blending career strategy, mindset mastery, and practical HR tools. She equips leaders to navigate the growth and change and build future-ready organizations powered by their greatest asset, people. Welcome to TrueIcon.
Thanks, Jen. I'm so excited to be here, and I really appreciate you asking me to be on here today.
Of course. Again, your approach to life and business and many things is also very values driven. And I have that connection, and a lot of the listeners here have that values driven component. So I know for you, it's integrity along with other things. And for that resonates with people listening, including myself in this conversation. So I love how you blend many of your passions together. Now, right now, what's one thing that is either firing you up or you're very excited about at the moment?
My favorite thing right now is I'm working with a couple of nonprofits who are in growth mode, and they really are doing things well, and they have good leaders. I should say great leaders who are really building great teams, and they're leaning into how to have better conversations to have deeper meaning to their teams and the work they do. And it's just really fun to see that happen.
Yes. And the conversational piece, we'll get into this through the conversation, but how that blends with the corporate relationships, it's all tied to the honesty and the directness as well as the delicate balance of that, because we've talked in the past of how much that can change everything. Like that can change relationships, that can change family relationships, friends, partners, as well as the corporate route, getting promoted or self-advocating for yourself or advocating for others in the nonprofit space for both their mission and for the people they work with. So we'll get into a lot of that interwoven theme today of communication, yet also tying the many parts of you and what you do. Now, before we get into that, from a high level, maybe let's go into something that might surprise people or people wouldn't guess typically if they meet you today.
That is a great question. I think people would not realize that I used to have a horrible temper and I could not control my own emotions. And that is a learned skill for me, how I've done that to remain calm. But that is where martial arts has really played a big role in my life, is learning how to channel the inner calm and hold your emotions, especially in the moment.
Oh, and that's good because that's something a lot of people deal with now. It's good in the sense of it's real, right? I think a lot of times we don't talk about those things. And I work a lot in the neurodivergent community as well, where it's all about getting the energy out as a personal trainer, like getting the anxiety that could turn to energy, or the energy that could turn to anxiety, or it could turn to anger, or it could turn to so many things, and it's just letting it out. But I'm glad that you shared that, because a lot of times we deal with these things where we have family dynamics where we have that and we don't necessarily know either an alternative or how to manage those emotions. So I'm glad you found that the martial arts really can help you harness that, and I'm sure it trickles into other things you do.
It really does. Working in the corporate world for many years in HR, I did that for over 20 years before going out on my own. There were many a moment you had to take something in without showing the emotion in order to handle it well and support somebody well. You can't always lean into what their emotions are and what their stress is at the moment, because that doesn't help them. So being able to keep myself calm to hear and ask questions and lead them through things, it's definitely helped. And then you mentioned it, not just at work, but at home. We worry so much about our work relationships. Why aren't we trying these conversations at home as well? And so it's helped in our marriage. We've been married almost 30 years, And communication is something we worked hard on in that time.
And for people listening to think of ways that integrating a bit of communication or even just new information of learning how to communicate to go through sometimes those cycles of having the same things come up, the same patterns. It's like this the same cycle. It's like, what if you just diverted a little bit where instead of it cycling, okay, now we're growing, or now we can at least acknowledge, oh, I need a break, I need a walk, I need something else before I just dive into this. Or from the work side, okay, let me just breathe before I spew out the next thing I'm going to say in a corporate meeting, because I need to have this information come through as effectively as it can.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the big things we've learned at home and then I've learned to use at work, if one of us is having a bad day, the other is allowed to say, "You seem angry and I feel like you're taking it out on me and it's not my fault. So I'm going to walk away for a few minutes. And when you're ready to have this conversation another way, we'll come back together." And my husband will do the same thing with me now. He's like, "I don't know why you're mad at me. I'm not the one who created this problem. Can you just breathe for a second?"
Yeah.
And it just helps because sometimes the people you're closest to, you let the emotions out the most, where at work, you hold them in. What it's taught me at work, hard conversations are important because the longer we let things go, the more they fester and the more people make assumptions. So if you and I are having a work conversation and I'm getting agitated over something, I have to take a deep breath and say, "I'm really having trouble with this right now. I need to talk through this more. I don't agree with you. Can we talk through why you see it this way? Because this is what I see. How do we come together in the middle?"
I I've seen things change when I am more direct, and I was very indirect, the opposite for a while, until I realized the power of telling someone, wow, I really appreciated this very specific thing they did. Or the opposite of, hey, I don't work like this. I need to see the slides. I need to see something in advance. I can't just do this on the spur of the moment. I need time. And also the assumptions of the skill set of people, as well as the reasoning to things. And sometimes, a lot of times, we realize it has nothing to do about us. It's just everything to do about the situation or the behind the scenes. And oh, they're doing this because of me, or they're doing this to get back at me. No, no, they're not. They're not at all.
We as humans will make up stories. And how many times has somebody not emailed or texted you back and you're like, "Oh, now they're ignoring me or they're mad at me or I said the wrong thing." And they'll say to you, "No, like the plumbing in our house broke and I haven't had time to deal with this." Or something happened in the office and I've had to dig into that and I just haven't been able to get back to you. But as humans, we fill the space. So we have to stop making up stories and assumptions that it's about us.
And what's the stakes? Like, what's the alternative of not doing the work if we're not going to have the hard conversations, or even the conversations in general? What's the alternative to that? AKA, what happens if we don't work on it? What's the things we don't really want to happen? What do they have? What comes through?
That's a great question. I know for me at work in my younger years, if I didn't self advocate, even if I didn't get the answer I wanted, it was okay. If I didn't self advocate it, I would just walk away. "I can't work here. I can't do this. This place is terrible." As I got older, I realized it's okay that I don't agree with everything the way they do it. It's okay if my boss wants something different. But when we have the conversation around it and I say, "I don't understand why you want it this way. This doesn't make sense to me. This is making it harder. This doesn't seem right." He would come back or she would come back and say, "We need it this way because I didn't realize. Yeah, there's other things happening that maybe I didn't know about." So when you're in relationships, it's kinder to have a direct conversation than it is to kind of like beat around the bush, so to speak. When you said to somebody, "I need to see it ahead of time," you're self advocating, you're helping them understand what you need. And now you're communicating. And the next time they'll say, "When I need Jen to do this, I know I need to give her something ahead of time to make this easier for both of us." So you're also setting some boundaries in the moment.
Absolutely. And I think if we set the boundaries, then we don't have to worry about the two narratives that continually get stronger that could be
Yes.
opposing to, now they're clashing, when in reality it was maybe a scheduling conflict or something we have no control over that is actually what's affecting us. It's so that two people or two organizations or two coworkers against said problem or said project versus blaming each other. Yeah, versus at each other.
Yeah, a great example of that. I had two people working together, and the middle manager was out on leave. And the higher manager said, I need such and such a project done by this date. And the employee said, well, how do you want it done? And she goes, well, this is how the other person normally does it. So just look at that. So the employee took it to be that's how she had to do it. And to her, it didn't make sense that way. The manager was like, no, I don't care how you get it done, but that's how this other person normally does it. Use that as a template. And so they were struggling to work together. And when I brought them together, I said, I think you're saying the same thing. You just don't understand each other. And that's what it boiled down to. The head manager was like, I don't care how you do it. I'm saying that's a template. And then the employee all of a sudden went, I can do it however I want. She said, yes, I just need this output. And this is how the other person normally does it. Do it the easiest way you find to do it. And that's what it boiled down to is one thought she was clear in her communication and the other didn't. And once we brought them together, they realized what was happening. So being able to self-advocate and say, I don't understand what you want, or I don't work that way. Can we do X, Y, and Z? I can give you what you want, but I'd like to do it this way. Bringing solutions helps as well.
Those are really good points too, because without that self advocacy, without meeting in the middle, and where we can have that tension, we have that resentment. Honestly, those moments that this built up narratives, those high emotions, even anger, come out for something that could be very minute when we think we're being clear. So we'll pause there because I want to dive back into your journey too, because we're talking about the communication, and you had many pieces of your journey. So where before HR Ninja and before where you are now and your mindset of communication, of really those honest conversations and that clarity, let's paint a picture to the audience here who might be in the similar scenario where they're experiencing the world and they're trying to manage their emotions or whatever. Let's, however you see fit, how would you picture the before? Like before you even got to where you are now in the heat of it.
Early on, as I mentioned, I had a terrible temper. And so if anything frustrated me, angered me, upset me, hit me the wrong way, it was all about anger. I would lash out. Simple things like calling somebody on the phone, you messed this up and it can't be this way. And I would just, that's how it would come out. And it was just how I was wired for whatever reason. And I had a good upbringing. I have beautiful parents. It's not like there was anything happening at home that created that in me. It was just my personality. I've always been outgoing, strong willed personality. And what I started to learn over time was kindness actually got you more than anger did. And so if you and I didn't agree on something and I just yelled at you and said, Jen, you're wrong, this is terrible, it would fracture that relationship. Then we couldn't work together. We couldn't be friends, all of those things. When I finally learned to say, Jen, I don't see it that way. Can you explain to me why you see it that way? And chose to be curious and educate myself. That's when I started becoming better at being a leader in the HR world. That's when I was able to start working with employees and get curious and say, you can't do it that way. It was, why are you doing it that way? What's lending to you feel like it has to be done that way? Why are you struggling with this? And so when I began my HR journey, when I became curious and asked questions and learned more and was more open to understanding that not everybody sees the world like I do and the world's not black and white, that's when I started to really become the person that I've turned into today. It was a long journey, as you said. It's been a while. But in the beginning, it was really hard for me to channel those emotions and be the person that people needed me to be in that moment.
And where were you professionally in that point in terms of your career?
I had gone to school to do accounting work and I was still doing accounting work. And the HR director at the company I worked to came to me one day and he goes, I don't know why you're doing accounting. You're so good with people. You need to be in HR. I was like, what are you talking about? But he saw potential. He saw something in me. And he's like, you need to do this. And what I've come to realize over the years is I've been a coach forever in my life and never realized it. So when you hear the word coach, you're like, oh, you're coaching a basketball team or a baseball team. But what I mean by coach is it's inherent in me that I want to help people that are struggling with something. So I can remember back to being in second grade and I had a friend struggling and I helped her study on the school bus so she'd get a better grade. And when we got the same grade on a test, the teacher accused us of cheating. And I was angry and I was like, no, I just poured all this work into her because she was struggling. And so since I was little, I wanted to coach and help people. And I have this ability to see talent and untapped potential in people. And so that my martial arts journey with that, before martial arts, I was all about me. Once you get into martial arts, because it's an individual sport, it's not like a team sport where you're judged against everybody around you. And I sat the bench in high school in team sports. I wasn't the best athlete. Once you get into martial arts, you're looked at separately. You're not looked against everybody else. And that's when I really started to learn to look at people individually and figure out how to pull out the best talent in a student. And some were the best at kicking, and some were the best at sparring, and some were the best at forms. And so we learned how to work with them to pull out their talent and what they did the best. And that's what I practice now is if we all work from our passions and our innate talents, we're all so much happier at work and we do amazing things in this world.
That is very inspiring because you're working with people. Talk about communication, like you have to communicate a certain way, especially if you're either sparring or practicing where the lack of communication could be oops, like it's more physical. So you I bet you learn pretty quickly on that communication. So taking that into the workplace too is its own thing. And when you first started martial arts, as you started as an individual before coaching,
Yes. Yes.
what got you into it there? Like, what did you love about it so much so to really be immersed in it like that, even like a coach to help people?
I was not your average college student. I could not stand being a full-time college student. So I quit college and my mother thought I'd never finish, honestly. I worked full time and went to school at night. And I saw a self-defense class offered and I thought I should go get some ladies self-defense because I'm traveling at night to the Albany area. I need to make sure I can handle myself if something happens. And self-defense is as much about awareness and what to do and not to do as it is about fighting. So when I teach self-defense classes, it's less about fighting and more about awareness. But I was so impressed by the young lady that was helping teach this class. I was like, I think I'm going to take Taekwondo classes. And my husband looked at me when I got to about green belt. He's like, what are you doing? Because I am not a graceful athletic person. And he will be the first to admit that for me, which is okay. And I said, I'm going to be a black belt someday. And I didn't understand what that meant at green belt. Nobody understands what that means at green belt. But by the time I got to black belt, something had switched in how I saw it. And it was so self-empowering. And I just knew I needed to give that back to other people. But my instructors took so much time to find the potential in me and help me work to my best potential that I just needed to give that back to the community. And so when I run my school and I do classes, I'm not about Taekwondo, which sounds terrible up front, but when you understand it, I'm about building better people for a better community. In the process, they learn a martial art.
And they could advocate for themselves and
Yeah.
harness their own emotions through it. So when you're in that time when you were learning the power of regulating those emotions and kindness, where you're working with people at a whole nother level, and then this is even more so, you're instantaneously learning the different ways to communicate. You're learning the approach to things, and then the coach. And did you find a click between that and you, like what you were learning with kindness and all of that? Did you find something that could help people maybe in a journey that was similar to you, where they're just trying to either be seen or communicate, or something that allowed you to coach people? Like what really were you passionate enough about to not only go from student through all the different levels, but now some kind of why allowed you to give back specifically to more people?
Through the journey of martial arts, I learned that I love to present and train and teach. I like to be in the front of the room because not to toot my own horn, but because so many people don't, and we need teachers that are willing to stand in the front of the room. And I'm comfortable with that. I don't mind all the eyes on me. I also think that when we learn things that mean that much to us, we're supposed to give them back to the world. What I learned through it was my instructors helped me learn how to see things in people. So when you're sparring or doing anything in martial arts, you're learning physical cues, you're learning body language, And you're learning when people talk to you that everybody communicates and says things differently. You're also learning that each student is motivated differently.
Yeah.
And when it really came home for me how much I loved what I did was I had a student who was struggling at home, in school, and in Taekwondo because life is all tied together, whether we want to say leave it at home or not. It's not always that simple because life follows us wherever we go. And so he was really struggling with something one night. And I said, "What do you do before you go to bed at night?" He goes, "Well, I usually watch videos or TV." I go, "I have a homework assignment for you tonight." He said, "What's that?" I said, "You're going to find every funny video you can find. And that's all you're going to watch for an hour before you go to bed is just funny videos, nothing else. And then you're going to shut it off and you're going to go to bed. And the next time you come in, I want you to tell me what it did for you." He came in that next night and he says, "That was the best homework you could have given me." I said, "Well, what happened?" He goes, "It changed my whole outlook." He said, "I laughed and I was happy and I fell asleep and I slept well." He said, "So what you're learning is not just about how to move your body. You're learning that what you're putting into your mind matters. And so if you're taking in all the negative stuff and you're allowing all the negative in, you've got to let the positive in." And so it was just seeing him for who he was and what he was struggling with. And it had nothing to do with being in the room. It had to do with the rest of his life. And to this day, when I see this young man, he gives me a great big hug. And he says, "If it weren't for you and the other instructors, I wouldn't be who I am today." He has his own podcast. He does ghost hunting. He has done training to be a police officer in things that he probably wouldn't have the confidence for before that. And it's just, that's why I do what I do, because I go back to those stories and I know what it did for him. And so my success is seeing him successful.
Yeah. That's powerful. And it's powerful in the moment that you can see the after effects too, where it's a gift that people can share, that the impact. And a lot of times we have the impact that we make and we don't always see it. So to have that also feed your why is beautiful because you're changing one person's life. And that's awesome on its own without any other thing. You change one person's life who then can also change other people's lives by his podcast, through following his passions and having the confidence to do so, let alone other people that might resonate with him. They see his confidence, they see how he shows up in the world, and now they see themselves in him to allow them to take the next steps. And that's just one person. So from in front of a class, in self-defense classes, especially from many different levels of acknowledging the confidence in ourselves, we can take it to many parts of our life. And I like how you said earlier, it's hard to separate the, work from life, because that's the whole point of True Icon, honestly, is so that we pretend that we're different people at all times. That different strengths and different elements might come through in other environments, yet we're still the same person. We still
Hmm.
have the same values, and we don't talk about that. We don't talk about how we can go to work and maybe we're not working on something we actually like and it's draining, and we can't pretend that that doesn't affect us when we go home because our energy's drained. We can't just pretend I'm home now, I'm going to be back to my full energy. And I appreciate that, how it blends both, because that is your strength. I mean, one of your strengths of combining that, of presenting to real-time people, as well as bringing that strong why that resonates with other people. You are a people person in the sense of you empower people, and it's through different environments. It could be through HR Ninja, and it could be through the elements physically with working with people. And that is something that has a big impact. I want you to know that and let it sit, because it's powerful.
I That is what people don't realize in life is everything we do has a ripple effect, good or bad. And so when you're putting energy into the world, we have to put positive energy because there's so much negative energy. And there always has been. It's not just more today. It's just that we are more connected than ever with social media and news. And when you talk about ripple effect, my first black belt that I just put through my own chartered school, she's 17 and her family does work in the Philippines. Her mom is a midwife. She teaches. And so they've gone down there and set up places for women to have children safer. So when they went down, this young woman helps me do self-defense classes. She said, "Can I take your material and can I teach down there?" So now our self-defense classes have gone to the Philippines.
Wow.
I never dreamed the day I took a self-defense class in 1997 that I would touch women in the Philippines. And I still get goosebumps and chills
I
thinking
have
about that,
goosebumps.
like what that means, right? It's so humbling to think that I took a class all those years ago and that there are women in the world that are now going to be better protected somewhere else that may never have had that before. And so that ripple effect is huge. We have to remember that whether it's at work, at home, anywhere, even something as simple as opening a door for somebody when you don't know they're having a bad day can change somebody's life. And so that ripple effect is a big deal.
And it's the power of something that could even be a small conversation. It could just be that. And before we dive into where you are now, you mentioned accounting, you mentioned the path, you started the different parts of martial arts. Okay, what got you from there to where you are now? And it could take it from any angle, it could be personally, professionally. How can you help the audience and myself get from there to here?
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. It's been frustrating yet fun at the same time. I did start doing accounting work for a local mining company. I had a great career there. That's where I jumped into HR. I worked for a bank for a little bit after that. I worked for an accounting firm doing benefits and in HR work for their clients. And then I ended up at a nonprofit for 12 years as the HR director. And I've had some great bosses and I've had some horrible bosses. And the CEO at that organization, the original CEO, was probably one of the best mentors I ever had because I was already on my journey of learning how to be a kinder person. And he taught me even more. And working with him was one of the greatest honors of my life before he retired. I probably would have retired from there if he had still been there. He was ready to retire. The new CEO that came in, we just saw HR differently, and it's okay. And that happens. And so a year ago, I made the transition out because they wanted a different role for HR there, which is great for them. And when I sat down and really thought about it, my husband and I talked long and hard about it. My husband's had his own business for over 30 years. And we're at a point in our life where the thought of me being in somebody else's space in the corporate world 60 hours a week just doesn't work for the lifestyle we want. And I want to be able to impact more people. And I know that there's so many small organizations, whether for profit or nonprofit, that need support. I find that under 50 employees, they don't have their own HR person. And I just want to help those organizations be better. And I always say I help business owners sleep at night because they know they're in compliance, but they also know their employees are happy and coming back to work the next day. And around a
They
lot of it centers around just what I've learned about how to have these conversations. And I just did a talk for the Capital Region HR Association a couple weeks ago. And it was all about sitting within a small organization where you don't have upward mobility, but finding untapped talent so that the people that already work for you are working from their talents and their passions and they're happy and dedicated and coming back to work, and how it empowers not just them, but your organization to do bigger things. And I think that people have always been afraid in the HR space to have these conversations. Well, if I ask somebody what they want, I'm not going to be able to give it to them or they're going to leave me. The reality is if people are with you and you do the right thing, they want to stay with you. And so you have to have open, authentic conversations. If people are truly your biggest asset and your best asset, show them. Ask them what they want. Ask them what they need. But then walk the walk and say, I can give you that or I can't, but here's where we can go with this. And let's talk about this together. And you have to get to know people on a personal level. We were always told in HR, oh, don't ask anything personal. You can't know about their personal life. But if I don't know you as a whole human, how do I let you be a whole human at work? And that always just for me was, yeah, I don't need to know everything, but I also need you to know I'm a safe space that if you're struggling at home, I can help you with resources. And I have said to people, I'm not the person to counsel you on this, but let me connect you with who is, because I want to support you the best way I can on this. You can't be afraid to have truly an open door policy and be there for people and listen.
and I think that's big, the connection piece, right? The connection of knowing that people can talk to you or talk to the organization so that they can bring themselves as well as the deep conversations. Now, I'm not sure if you realized it, but the story you shared earlier about the person you worked with, listening, like watching the funny videos and sleeping at night, you say you help companies sleep at night?
Yes, I
Did you
did
put that
say that.
together? Like,
No,
did you do
I
that
didn't,
because
but
of
you're
that?
right. Yeah, I didn't think about that, but you're right. It is. I think that's at the end of the day, if we do really good work, and I've always said if I can make the best decision I can with what I have in front of me in the moment, and I can lay my head at night and know I did the best I could, whether it's by the organization, the person, or both at the same time, then I should be able to sleep at night. And does it mean that every decision was the best perfect decision? No, I'm not perfect. Circumstances are never perfect. There are decisions I think of in my career that I wish I had made different decisions at the end of the day. But again, in the moment, I did the best decision with the information I had in front of me. And that's all you can do. But as long as you're honest, and you talked about my integrity, I've built my life and my career on my integrity. My parents taught me young, it takes a lot to build a good reputation, but it takes moments to ruin it. And if you always say integrity, always do the right thing, at the end of the day, it will, even if you don't get the result you want, at the end of the day, if you did the right thing and stuck by your own values, that's what matters because it will come back to you in the right moments when it matters.
That's very sound advice, and to keep it tangible as well, integrity is a value of true icon, and the whole point is if no one's watching, to do the right thing, however
Yes.
you define that. Don't do it because you think someone else thinks it's right. Like, do you really believe in it? And that is something from silly as, like, I don't know, like returning a wallet or something, like, oh, you have money on the ground or whatever, bringing it back to the person, as well as how do you speak to others, how do you speak to yourself, are you assuming negative intent, holding your values true? Are you doing things for the right reason, or are you just trying to make it affects the business too, for me, honestly, of not all money's good money. And
Yes.
that's a whole separate learning thing. But if I am doing it based on integrity and it does align with my values, to me, values are strong. And for you, it sounds like the impact in what you do is strong. And I'm sure that, especially working with nonprofits, but I'm sure that affects and impacts your relationships if you're gearing towards those values. If it doesn't fit, it might, feel a little clunky, and then you have to reevaluate.
Yeah, one of the nonprofits I'm working with right now has not had their own HR person, so the executive director's been doing everything, and I've been in there for a couple of months now, and at first he was having trouble handing stuff over. And about 2 weeks ago, he walked into the space that I sit at because I'm in their office once a week, and he walked into the space and he said, "Whatever processes and things we need done, can you just do them?" Which tells me he now trusts me to run with whatever he needs. And that means more to me than anything he could have said to me. You can give me all the praise in the world. It doesn't matter unless I know what you just said to me says you trust that I have the integrity and the honesty to do the right thing. And there was something a couple weeks before that I had made a mistake on, and I walked right up to him and said, "I did this. I take it on me. How do you want me to help you fix this?" And he was like, at first he was like, "I can't believe we did this." And then he was like, "Okay, no, you brought it to me. We'll fix it." And it wasn't major. Nothing's major is going to happen over it. It's just, it was a wrong, just wrong. It was a mistake because I didn't look at something properly. But I took it to him and I said, "I realized this last night. I made a mistake on something."
Hmm.
And so I think that moment clicked for him to say, "Oh, she is going to tell me the truth if something happens." And it's funny you talked about integrity. So we have 5 tenets in Taekwondo, and they're courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, indomitable spirit. And I talk to the kids not just about saying them, but we talk about what do they mean. And when I say integrity, I always say integrity is doing the right thing even when no one is looking. And I remember somebody made the quote, and I don't remember who said, "Whatever you do in private will show up in public." And when you think about the downfall of some people in society, what they did in public, everybody thought they were wonderful people. And when you found out what they did in private, you were appalled by who they really were. And so I think that's an important thing for me is I have to do the right thing in the background in my own mind because I never want somebody to go, "Oh, but that's not who she really is."
Yeah. You have different flavor. I just thought of it now, like different flavors. Like if I'm in the gym, I'll listen to like heavier music, and then you'll bring out that side, or me dancing, or me in corporate. Like, I'm not gonna bring my 1 a.m. concert self to the office. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
go to many concerts if I could make it through like 11 o'clock. I'm surprised,
Right.
but I mean, for some, I am seeing Metallica in London in a couple of weeks, so that'll be a whole different vibe than the 8 a.m.
That's
Monday
amazing.
meeting. So yeah.
That is amazing. I wanna hear all about that.
Yes. So those components, it also goes back to habits, and the part that a lot of people are craving now is authenticity. And then I think goes to related to integrity, whatever values. If you're not being authentic or true to yourself, then what are you doing? Are you just acting? Are you performing your life? Because you honestly are. Like if you're at home and you have to let all that stuff go, you have to remember what you told people or how you act, then is that really you? And especially from an HR route, you're bringing out the true strengths of people. If they do love people, they might need some tweaks and some help and some learning, but willing to do their best and learn. Like those two combinations of, okay, I did my best today, but I'm willing to learn. And I want to put this as clear for people who are also in this scenario too, or maybe they're transitioning from maybe a job, a career, etc. So we talked about you realized you had the work with people, and you've been helping people, and you help honestly the peace of mind. You help people with the peace of mind related to HR. They know that you're going to handle it, and HR and other things. But when you actually started your own business, like was there a moment of like yes, or was it fear, or was it kind of little moments? Can you help people? A lot of people here might founders or entrepreneurial spirited. Can you help people in that route of like, what you were thinking?
It was all of those emotions. There were nights I didn't sleep thinking about, "What if this doesn't work?" There were nights I didn't sleep thinking, "But we've had a certain income. How will we get through this?" There were nights that I thought, "Am I good enough to do this?" But there were the moments of, "You know what? I am good at this, and I do need to do this." And 90% of the time, it feels right, and I feel from my heart that I'm doing what I was meant to do in this world, that I'm living from my passion, I'm living from my integrity, I'm living from who I was meant to be. You're always, no matter what you do, 10% of you is gonna always say, have that imposter syndrome or worry about the future. That's normal and inherent in humans. But at the end of my 12-year stint at that nonprofit, I felt it. And I probably should have felt it long before I did. And the fact that they came and said, we need to make this change, that was the universe saying to me, you know, this has been coming. Why haven't you done anything? And it just kicked me out the door versus letting me walk out the door. And what I wish I had done, and I would recommend other people do, is talk to somebody sooner, whether it be a career coach, a counselor, a family member, a friend. Here's what I'm feeling. Here's what I'm thinking. I need to start setting myself up for what's next. But I also believe I had to walk through what I did to help other people walk through into their next chapter. And I've talked to people who have lost jobs that are looking for jobs. I've coached people out looking for jobs. I've coached people in jobs that the company's been bought out. And who do I want to be next? Do I want to be here? Do I want to leave? I've talked to people who want to start businesses that I've given time to and talked through the good, the bad, and the ugly. And here's the truth of it all. And it's not wrong to be in corporate. It's not wrong to work for yourself. It's not wrong to do any of those things, but it's only right if it's right for you. And that's what's important. Your body will tell you what you need and what you like. You just have to be willing to listen to it.
All the above. I mean, all of those emotions. You kind of put me back into that too. And for other people who have been on the show and people who have expressed feedback afterwards, it's it's not an easy process, you know? It's first you have to find yourself, and first you have to recognize all the signs of all of that stuff happening, and the body, like, whether it's stomach problems or stress or anxiety or, other challenges with the body as well from not listening to yourself. And then a lot of times I hear a lot of people are on the cusp of something, and then it's the layoff or it's the environment or COVID or something that
Mhm.
like intervenes and is like, no, this is it. I was applying for jobs for a while. Like I was applying for jobs. I'm like, it's everything. I am well overqualified for this job. I know all the things. Like this is good. And it was just like, what's happening? And then once I had the idea, I was called. Like you said, I need to do this. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
why? Why?
There was just something in my soul that said, you will slowly die if you go back to corporate. And I did the same thing. So when I first knew I was leaving that job, I started applying to different roles and I interviewed for a few different things. And one of them I went to, and I went to the first round interview and I sat there and it just didn't feel good. And then just the commute and knowing what the hours in their space was going to be after all the flexibility I'd had, knowing I wouldn't be able to help my husband run his business. I would probably have had to close my Taekwondo school because of the hours they would have needed me. And the pay would have been beautiful, but would it have been worth it when I would have been slowly dying inside, knowing I wouldn't have been happy? And then I didn't even wait to see if I got a second interview. I talked to my mom, and this is funny because my mom's kind of my barometer in life. My mom and I are very close, and she's a very smart woman. And I went to see her. I see them almost every Saturday. And I said to her, she goes, "How did the job interview go?" And I told her how I was feeling. And she goes, "I don't think you should do that." She goes, "Why aren't you just going to go into consulting?" She goes, "You did consulting for a while before. Why don't you do it now?" And I was like, okay, well, if mom's saying that. And then my brother came home and he says to me, "Why aren't you just going to consult? Why are you worrying about a job?" And he is a very practical individual. So it was like the universe like screaming at me, "You have this feeling inside, just go do it." So yeah, I didn't even wait to see if I got a second round interview for that job. Like Monday morning, I emailed them immediately. And I was like, before I even find out if I have a second interview, I'm like, thanks, but no thanks. Cause I didn't want that opportunity in front of me. I didn't want it to tug at me and be like, well, maybe I'll just go for the second interview. I was afraid of what that would be. And I just have felt in my soul, even the moments that I get nervous about something and worried, I sit back and go, but how do I really feel about this? I'm like, okay, this is temporary. Any setbacks are temporary. My husband is full on 100% supportive of us doing this life and both of us having our own business. And we're just figuring out how to move forward and it's growing and it's building and it's been amazing. So I just know I'm in the right space.
That's amazing. And going from that need and knowing and your family, like, yeah, obviously this is the right choice for you. This is the choice that it's almost like they had to bring it out of you. And I like how you called that other company. And I think this happens a lot of times in the journey where people are almost at the next step and then something shiny comes through. Like for me, it was a job. Actually, they called me. It was an offer that was like almost double my salary. Almost double my salary, but in a dream job that I would love. Like I was very much in market research. So I was the market research and customer experience and building the programs or whatever. And it just felt icky to me because I'm like, ooh, I'm just researching to get more people to buy things they don't need. It was like, ooh. But and when I was younger, I was like, that was the dream to work for one of those bigger
Hmm.
companies. And like, here they are calling me. And I thought in my head, I'm like, no, this is a test. It's like, how bad do I want it? How bad do I want? I'm like, I wanted enough to let go of that. And ooh, that was tough. That was tough because I'm like finances and all the stuff. And, I
Yeah.
was prepared enough to have the next step. Like I covered myself enough to get, to be able to do it on my own. But that shiny object was like, hey, you want this? This was your dream. And I'm like, ooh, I know myself so much at that point that it didn't matter. And it mattered only a little bit until like you said, like it felt wrong. Like it felt I would have dreaded it. I would have done it probably for a year just for the money or maybe. And then I know I could have done it, but it wouldn't have fulfilled me. It would have just continued to drain me,
Yeah.
which is
I
crazy.
remember my dream when I was a kid. So my dream when I was a kid, I was going to become a lawyer and then a judge and then the president of the United States.
Wow.
And then I figured out how much schooling that would take, and I decided I didn't want to do that. But I think I would have been a great litigation lawyer because I can argue something like no tomorrow. And I can do it professionally. And I've actually talked college professors out of giving us final exams before. So I really think I could have been a litigation lawyer. Why I ended up the path I was, I don't even remember the conversation behind that. But I remember success to me was when I have that vice president or that high level job and I'm in that corner office and I'm wearing the power suit and I'm in the meetings, that was going to be success. And I got there and I was like, the office politics are enough to like make you realize, no, thank you. Like the office politics of we say one thing in the meeting, but we do want something else behind your back and just so many things. And I was like, I can't do this. This is not authentic. This is not integrity. This is not values based. You can't say one thing publicly and then we all do something else back behind the scenes. And now I sit in right now in my home office looking out on my front lawn and I'm like, this is success is doing the work I love and not having to worry about where I am when I'm doing it and having that freedom. When we're done with this call, recording this call, my husband and I are jumping in the car and taking off for the weekend because we can. And I've just told my clients, I'm unavailable till Monday. Okay. They're like, okay. And that's it. I didn't have to ask anybody permission, and neither did he, for us to take off and go for the weekend. And that is where we're at in life. We don't want to be held back by others' expectations. We want to set our own and live life the way we feel life feels good. Yeah.
I'm gonna let you have that moment, but in my head, I'm like, oh man, I right now at my entrepreneurial me and my husband, and it's a good feeling. I'm gonna let you have that one because it's real, right? That feeling of like you don't have to explain it to anyone. That's just it. Like it's a statement. It's not a question. Okay, I'm off, and you know, and you've built up the trust with your relationships to be able to do that. Okay, so now in your world now, like current season, how do you integrate the many different parts of you into the work now, whether it is martial arts or helping people or feeling this need to help others and self-advocate and the HR component, like where are you right now in this chapter?
I do a lot of career coaching for folks, and then I do the fractional HR plus training, speaking, and how it all ties together. A lot of the values I bring to how I train and how I coach and what frameworks I bring to companies is all based on that integrity and that framework that I've learned from the martial arts. When I did the Capital Region HRA talk a couple weeks ago, first of all, I literally put my black belt outfit on, which was really fun. People got a
Nice.
kick out of that. So I had my top and my belt on. They just thought that was the best thing when I was presenting.
Yeah.
But I take what I've learned for how to have hard conversations, how to find talent in people, how to see the potential in the students in front of me. And I use that in all aspects of what I do. So I take that framework of how I see it in a Taekwondo student, and I have a whole framework I've put together for how I pull it out of you if you're my coaching client. I have a whole framework of how to help managers have that conversation with employees to find that hidden talent, which I can turn around and also use the flip side to help the employee know how to have the conversation with their boss. I just had it with an employee at one of my clients yesterday, had a question like, how do I take this to my boss and frame it in a way to get her to hear me so we can have this conversation? And we did that. And it's all based on that same framework. And so I take that framework that I've learned for how to have conversations and work with people and put it together to bring it into organizations and into my coaching clients to help them and find the best potential I can there.
And I think you spoke on this a few years ago too about I think it was disrupt HR or something similar related to like the strengths and bringing out the strengths and that their people's uniqueness and their strengths is that's what's going to make them the best quote unquote employee, but they're going to if you meet them where they're at and you have those conversations, then there's all that other, like, stuff in the way, that noise of the different narratives that we talked about earlier, all those other components that's, "No, real. Oh, okay." It goes back to the beginning, like, "Oh, I just need this ahead of time," and then you got it, or having
Hmm.
someone trust you, or having someone else advocate for themselves for the first time, which would be very scary for someone who is learning their own voice and learning that they actually can do that. You actually can combat and negotiate, what's actually possible.
Yeah.
And that's really cool for organizations to take that in the workplace. A lot of what I did, I was an advocate in the inclusion route, and I really tried to help in the organization. I was the the connections, and where I felt like in many organizations they build these silos, right? You build these silos. Oh, this is HR, this is marketing, this is whatever, and then it's like that's the identity. So like the identity in the corporate world, but then once you start having those conversations interdepartmentally, I think you mentioned at different points with the culture, like you it comes out organically when you highlight the strengths and you're real with people versus that facade of, oh, these are the expectations and everyone's trying to meet these expectations that were just how it's been done before. I mean, honestly, like so much has changed in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years that maybe something's different. Like, we can't expect to be the exact same people we were yesterday.
Yeah, I could have a whole hour conversation around culture and how I feel about that word and how organizations do that, but we don't have time for that today.
No, you have to catch you later or on the stage.
Yeah, yeah. The quick synopsis for me is if you use people's strengths properly and you pull the right teams together, your culture will build itself. So when you're talking about fixing culture, you've got leadership issues. That's what it all stems from. That's my 30-second
Yeah.
synopsis of what I think about culture.
And we'll tie it to this as well. So the honest conversations with your team, with your leadership team, with yourself. Is ego getting in the way? Am I leading the
Mhm.
way I think I'm leading? Or am I leading and actually listening to the feedback of my employees and willing to listen to the feedback and different bringing yourself to work as well? Are you expecting one thing and doing another? And this is leadership. This is different people in the organization, anyone who has an impact. If you have an impact on someone else, if you have decision making skills, are we including everyone in the conversation who it's affecting? Are we open to that? Like, all the things. And I think a lot of it goes back to this topic of communication, of, are we being honest? And if we're just we're having conversations and they're not honest conversations, then are we really doing the work? Are we really invested in our team, in our employees, and in that culture? And I think that, again, you can just have little conversations, and it doesn't have to be game changing in the sense of drastic conversations. It can just say something besides, how was your day, or how was your weekend, and not listen to the good before you say your next point.
Yeah. That's something that people don't realize in communicating too. There's a time and a place for how's the weekend, how are the kids, how's the family? And there's a time and a place for when you just get into the conversation. And when you're going to have a hard conversation, all that fluff in the beginning makes it more uncomfortable. When you're going to have a hard conversation, you say, Jen, I've called you in here right now because we need to have a hard conversation. And this is what it's going to be about. And this is what I'm hoping the outcome will be. But let's talk through this together. Because if I beat around the bush, you're going to know I'm nervous. It's going to be weird. And then you're like, why are you asking me how I am and acting like you care about me when you're now going to have this conversation? And I've been on both sides of them. And what I've learned is the kindest is the most direct. You said earlier you're a direct communicator. That's the kindest thing you can do with somebody. It's not about being direct, it's about how you kindly and compassionately be direct. I have told people they're fired and had them hug me and say, thank you for everything you've done for me before they've left my office. You can do hard conversations well if you choose to learn how to do them well.
Hmm. That's a really good point. And it doesn't feel good. I've had to let people go in the past too, and it's kindness and that clarity goes a very long way. And no, the situation isn't good, but that doesn't mean as people that we have to, have that persona of not being real and pretend that it's not affecting someone, because it is. And at the same point, it's okay to follow the rules, and expectations were not met. We have tried, and it hasn't turned out the way we
Yeah.
expected, and this is the direction we're going. And if another opportunity comes, then we'd love to, or whatever. But at least being kind, because without knowing that, sometimes people think something else, like, oh, it's this or it's that, when in reality, oh, okay, my skill set in graphic design, there's only so much I had here, when in reality, I'm so much better at editing the videos, but it takes me so much time and they just need it quick, and whatever it is,
Yeah.
I'm just making this up.
Yeah. Yeah.
It could just be a skill.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
So
it's communicating is a learned skill. Most people are born with it. We have to learn it, but we have to choose to learn it. And that's what I've done over the years. And as I said, that was not my skill set when I first started. It's definitely a learned skill.
But it gives people hope that we can learn it. We can learn the things that we're trying to learn. And I'll leave it at that, because there's so much there. And I know that if people have follow-up questions, then we'll put everything for you, for Lisa, in the show notes. And how I want to ask now, so from a higher level, we're still in current Lisa mode here. How do you stay true to your values now? I mean, whether it's integrity, kindness, or the strength that, or others that sit with you. How are you living with those values now? And I'll ask another one after that, since it relates to earlier. And how can other people live true to their values?
It's a great question. Whenever I'm in a situation where I feel like I'm having trouble making a decision or I don't know how it runs with my values, I go for a walk, I call a friend, I might call somebody who I've done counseling with and just sit down and say, I'm struggling with this one. What would you do? What do you see here? If it's just a small internal struggle, I just sit back and take a breath and go, if I were to do the right thing that meets my values right now, what would the decision be? So there have been clients that I have said, I don't think we're the right fit. I don't think that we should work together. And I've turned them away because I can take on all the clients I want. But if we're not a right fit, nobody's happy at the end of the day and it's not fair to them. How you can really stay true is you just have to take time, quiet time to think through things sometimes. The first thing I do in the morning, once I'm up and showered and have taken care of the cats and the whole thing, I sit and have my cup of coffee quietly and I think through things. And that is my moment. If you're, if you believe in a higher power, you can pray, meditate, whatever it is that helps you. But finding quiet time to just sit with your thoughts and yourself. And it can be really hard to sit with your own thoughts, but you have to learn how to do it because it's the only way to get through it. If you like to journal, then journal. Lots of times, if I'm spinning over a decision, I get up and go for a walk. There's actually scientific proof that walking, just doing that easy, repetitive thing, can help untwist things in your mind. There's some chemistry that happens in your body when you walk. And so I'll walk. And sometimes you'll see me out walking and you'll see me, I'm talking to my phone, but what I'm doing is making voice notes while I'm walking because all of a sudden ideas come to mind. And so I'm trying to get it down while I'm walking. Just finding whatever works for you to quiet your mind and let you walk through things. And then if you just really can't make the decision, find somebody who knows you and what your values are. So my closest friend lives up the street from me and I'll call her and go, you got time to go for a walk or grab coffee? Yes. Here's what's going on today. Can you help me walk through this? And she'll say, well, here's what I know about you and what I see. Here's what I think you should think about.
It's things people can do each day and being open to do it. And journaling and walking has helped me a lot. If it's not on a walk, I mean, I've had talks that I've come up with the idea that same day where like I had a talk, I'm like, no, this is even better one. And I have it that morning and I voice memo the whole thing. And then I just practice, practice, practice. And then it's like, boom, it hits so hard because it just came to me. I was either that or in the shower, but I don't do voice notes in the shower because,
Me either.
that, but I think about a lot of things and I have my journal like, okay, gotta write things down afterwards. And it could be journaling, it could be walking, quieting the mind. I mean, even as the practice, I don't know what they're called, like what speed bags. So you go like boom,
Yeah.
boom, 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 boom. I do that.
Yeah.
Like I love that. My grandfather and my dad, like he always had that because my grandfather owned a gym and he worked in a gym in the Bronx for boxing when I was younger. So that was my dad always taught me like boom, 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 boom. And I like the
Yeah.
rhythm for it.
Yeah.
But that like gets my head real clear, real fast.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be those little things that aggregate over time. And I invite people to think about now, we talked about values. What are you, for anyone listening, what are your values? What are ones that even if they're not coming to mind now, try it. Try going on a walk, try journaling. If it's something like playing music and being in the zone and really embracing the presence, see what comes up. But and then you don't even have to force it. Just be like, I want to think about my values, go through the day, the week, etc., and see what comes up without judgment. Maybe it's creativity. It could be something very different than what you originally thought. And I found that my life changed a lot when I led by my values. Okay, say it is integrity, because that's the one I've been talking about today. That is one. How will Jen live with integrity right now? If I really say this, even though it's hard, okay, I'm going to do this because I stand by this. And it changes my life because it allows me to do things afraid. It allows me to do things even when it's uncomfortable because I know at the end of the day, I am trying my best. If I'm trying my best, living my values and looking to grow and open to feedback and growth, then for me, that's where I'm at now. And I know other people, depending on where your values are, I invite you to try that and take Lisa's advice and lessons and experience because it sounds like a lot of the challenges are your greatest why. You help people who you needed to feel seen, heard, believed, and listened to. And at the same point, you trusted and other people do trust you and you share that to others. And the impact of that ripple effect is real and anyone listening you can make a big difference. I want to highlight that continuously. You can make a big difference just by even something little, and I'll let it be the conversation as what we talked about today.
Yeah. You're right, Jen. I love it.
Yes. So Lisa, is there anything else that you would like to share to the audience of how they can take, whether it's conversations, connections, or anything that you feel the audience it could be valuable to know?
We talk about integrity and everything's kind of serious, but have some fun too. Like, you got to have some levity. You got to laugh at yourself now and then, and you got to have fun. And I don't remember what year it was, but my two closest friends and I usually get together after the first of the year and we're like, what is our word or phrase for the year? And one year mine was more fun things with more fun people.
Mm,
And I say yes to a lot more fun things than I used to. I would just be like, oh, I don't have time or I can't do that. And you got to have some fun. You got to go out and do some things. And sometimes you got to say, you know what? Today I'm not working and I'm going to go do something else and take the day. So just remember that it's great to work from your passion and do your things. But sometimes when we're entrepreneurs or we're so passionate, we don't take the time off to do the fun things. So more fun things with more fun people.
love it. Lisa Boucher, it's been incredible talking with you, and we're going to put all of the details to how to contact you in the show notes, and we'll share it out. So look out on social media. And if you love the conversation, feel free to like it, subscribe, comment, etc., to continue to get these conversations out. So with that, everyone, stay true and boldly grow.
Thanks, Jen.